Last week, a major management reshuffling at Sony elevated PlayStation hardware visionary Ken Kutaragi out of the day-to-day operations, with software-focused Kaz Hirai replacing him. Now, some video game analysts are already predicting that this means Sony could shift its focus from hardware to software. Could be crazy talk, though. So is Sony taking a page out of the Sega playbook? Is this the end of the PlayStation? Pour a 40 for Sony, would you? It's The Loop. Joining us tonight, contributing writer for Yahoo Games, Justin Leeper, and Aaron Ruby is back for more. Next Gen Magazine contributor and author of Smart Bomb, The Quest for Art, Entertainment, and Big Bucks in the Video Game Revolution. Gentlemen, welcome to The Loop. Aaron, I want to start with you here, sir, because a European Sony VP said recently that the PlayStation 4 is going to be out in 2010, which it strikes me as odd that anybody from Sony would be commenting on the PlayStation 4 right now. Obviously, they're trying to focus on the 3. Others are saying, well, this is crazy because the management shuffle at Sony indicates clearly they're shifting focus from hardware to software. What are your thoughts here? Are either sides nuts?
Yeah, well, there's no way that there's going to be a PlayStation 4 in 2010. That's crazy.
Is it because you don't think there's going to be a PlayStation 4, or is it just 4 years isn't long enough for this current cycle?
Yeah, well, it'd be crazy to do it in 2010. But also, yeah, I think that, if they can get out of this rut where we throw, a shiny new box out there every 5 years, that's a good thing. People think if there's no PS4 right on the horizon that they lose. I think that's a victory if the longer they can wait.
All right, now, Justin, speaking about the removal of Kutaragi here, is that signal to you that Sony's not planning on making a PlayStation 4, or is it just a strategic shift to maybe appeal to developers somehow?
To me, it's a good thing because I think Ken Kutaragi was super computer intensive. He used to talk about how people want computer-generated things in their consoles, and really, we want games in our system, so it's good that Kaz Hirai is coming up. He's a games-focused guy. I think it's going to repurpose Sony back as the machine for games, which is what it needs to be.
Aaron, would you agree with that?
Yeah, and they got to stop getting backdoored by Microsoft, definitely.
Yeah, now, I don't think Sony likes being backdoored by anybody, let alone Microsoft specifically. But when you say that, what exactly is Microsoft doing that's hurting Sony?
Well, I don't think Sony's used to playing with someone who has such deep pockets, and I think they've been underestimating them all along. And now that the 360 infrastructure is in place, they can just go after them, offer really good deals, get GTA 4, get Assassin's Creed, stuff like that.
Well, now I wonder if Microsoft is one concern for the big ass, but perhaps Sony's their biggest enemy, their own worst enemy here, Justin, because Namco recently said that they've got to sell 500,000 units of any particular software title just to break even, or let alone make a profit. I mean, 500,000 copies of any game, wouldn't that be enough to make a developer think twice about developing a PlayStation 3 exclusive?
I honestly don't think that's too much of a new thing because it's always been that there's a very small percentage of games that actually hit really big and then everybody else is kind of struggling for that extra little nibble of the pie.
True, but for a fraction of the units sold or even shifted on the Wii, a developer can have what he would call a quote-unquote hit. I mean, 500,000, that's... If you're not an EA, if you're not an Atari or an Ubisoft, you got to be looking at that thinking, maybe we should go multi-platform here.
I think it's definitely an expression of dissatisfaction on the part of developers. But how much that's really going to hurt them all depends on how successful the PS3 is.
The smaller publishers have always waited a little bit longer until these consoles have gotten a bigger install base to come in with their other games. You got your Atlases, you got your Xseeds, the smaller companies.
Sure.
Yeah, they're not going to be big players until another maybe 2 or 3 years down the line when there is a big install base and it makes sense for them to take that financial risk.
So you're saying Q3 of 2007 I can expect Puzzle Bobble, or is it going to be 2008? Am I going to have to wait a little bit longer?
Yeah, you may be waiting a while, but really, in my opinion, the console wars aren't going to start until next year when this 1 year head start that Xbox 360 has is eaten up, and we'll see just how Sony is doing. When I can actually go into a store and say, boy, I'd really like to get a PS3, and they'll actually not laugh in my face and send me out the door. They'll actually have the equipment that I want to buy.
All right, well, Aaron, just not too long ago, you were talking about the shelf life, the console's life cycle, if you will.
Yeah.
And he said they'd be crazy to get it out in 2010. But, Sony's losing money on every PS3 that they sell. Microsoft, a lot of people think, forced Sony's hand with the PlayStation 2 to cut its life cycle short. So looking at the PlayStation 3 versus Xbox 360, what's to stop Microsoft from releasing a console in 2010 to force Sony to upgrade their PlayStation 3? And how could that really damage Sony as a company to be bleeding all that time and then have to release a new console?
Yeah, well, like you said, for example, the PlayStation 3 development costs just basically sapped what was the most profitable division of Sony. So, which is another reason why I think it's crazy talk that they're saying they're going to come out with something in 2010. I also think that I don't know that Microsoft can force their hand that way. I think Sony's trying to get out of this business model that's been going on for about 20 years, where you just every 5 years you throw out a new box.
Right.
And I think if anyone can pull it off, it's them. They just have to start making really good games.
True. It's interesting that you brought that up here, because 4 years ago, Kaz Hirai said that the era of the console wars as we know them are over. Now, I know we're in the middle of the conflict now, so maybe we spoke a little too early, but will there ever be a time, and Justin, I want to give you the final word on this one, that you think the console itself will sort of be irrelevant, that a company behind a box of hardware in your living room won't matter, won't be Sony versus Microsoft versus anybody else, it'll just be a console that plays these games that keep getting better and better?
Who's going to bow out? Is Sony going to bow out? Is Nintendo going to bow out? No, all those people want to get that money from manufacturing. They want to get the money through the software licensing. It's just too big of an investment, too big of a return for them to actually just say, okay, Microsoft, you can make game console, or Sony, you can make game console. It's not going to happen.
All right, Aaron, really quickly, are we going to see a PlayStation 4 and when? Just ballpark it for me. I'm curious.
2015.
So I should start lining up next week?
Yeah, right.
Okay.
Exactly.
Oh, good. And I'll bring a
And
flak
you'll get
jacket
games
this
by
year.
2017.
Awesome. Decent games that people actually want to play.
Exactly.
All right, I want to thank our guests, Justin and Aaron, for keeping us in the loop there. Guys, listen, the PlayStation is just too big a part of Sony's billion-dollar digital empire for them to give up this easily. I mean, sure, there's been a ton of problems, a couple hurdles here and there for the PS3's launch, but a few missteps does not mean the company is going to cut and run at all. So don't believe what you're reading on the blogs. Just rattle your 6-axis and wait patiently for the PlayStation 4. Apparently, it's coming in 2015.